You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in absolutely gorgeous Northport, Florida. If you haven't been outside today, get outside and take a deep breath because it is so nice out there. I was up and down the roads a little bit. Take your time. No reason to go screaming mad out there. Just relax, enjoy the weather. First off, but really enjoy getting home to your loved ones. Take your time. No reason to speed up and down 75. Slow it down just a tad. It's my go-to line for every show. Just relax because everyone wants to get home. And just because you get home safe doesn't mean that you don't make somebody get in a wreck behind you. So I love all the mad dashes, but slow the mad dashes down. If we could keep it under 80, that'd be a great thing. That 110 in and out of traffic is not a good thing. But I've got a really special guest in the house. Really, really special guest. Keara, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do because it's been a while since we've talked.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, John, for having me. Thank you for having C.a.r.e. on. My name is Keara Abel. I'm actually the volunteer coordinator here at C.a.r.e. I'm also a sexual assault advocate. I've been with C.a.r.e. about 15 months, and we're working hard trying to get volunteers to come out of the COVID quarantine, get back in the mix, and anything that if I could get you to volunteer with me today, I will help you every step of the way because we need great people. And I can't tell you how invaluable our volunteers are. They're the resource that keeps us going because without them, most of what we do could not take place. So thanks for having me, John. Thanks for the forum.
You're very welcome. And what does it take to volunteer at C.a.r.e.? I mean, do you have to have a background or you just have to care?
You just have to care. I always bring the story up that when I first was the volunteer coordinator, I was out at an outreach event, excuse me, and I spoke with someone from the Peace River Wildlife Sanctuary, and he said, "Oh, we only have 200 volunteers." Well, last week we only have 8 at C.a.r.e. Now I get it. Animals are cute, cuddly, and a lot of times people can't. It's hard to deal with people in crisis. Sometimes that's a trigger. Sometimes because it actually triggers back to your own background. But the reality is, I just need somebody who can listen. Sometimes that's all it takes for somebody. They've lived a whole life where they haven't felt heard. So if you can listen, you can answer a phone, you can write a thank you letter. Literally, it just takes your being here, and we will find a way to use you. And I don't mean that in a bad sense. I mean that in a great sense. Even outreach, getting the word out, getting people to know that C.a.r.e. exists. I can't tell you how many people walked through the door and said, "Wow, until I found you by, randomly, I didn't even know you were there." I hear that time and time again. We hear that from employees that come in until they put in, an application. They didn't know we were here. And we've been here quite a while. So honestly, I just need somebody that's willing. If you have a background, and I mean, a lot of times that makes a difference too, because from where you speak, you've gone through it, you can see the other side. People need to see that. But honestly, if you just have that intent, if you just want to help somebody, if you just want to be there, be present, we'll find something for you to do, and we will be grateful for it every step of the way.
It's ironic that the show that I did last week was about swimming. It was Northport in their aquatic center. And we had this discussion going on about the importance of the kids locally here. And Charlotte County does the same thing, that they go to these in second grade, they go to the facility and they actually get educated into the water and some water safety issues. And I liked what you said because during that show, I actually mentioned, how valuable the aquatic center is, where we have a lot of people in our town that feel very upset that the city actually put the aquatic center in.
Right.
So you can't backfill an aquatic center. You have to move it forward, right? So
Right.
the volunteering side of it and what they're doing there to educate the youth. You guys do a lot of youthful education, but along those same lines, you just drew a reference, and that kind of sparked my mindset. Is that people do tend to care more about animals and trees
Right.
And they put a lot of time and effort and energy into that. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I didn't say it was a bad thing
Right.
on Friday, but when you, or I'm sorry, Monday. I blew my whole weekend this week. Woo. Um, to me, it's amazing when you have these open dialogues, the conversations that people do pick their areas of maybe expertise, maybe caring that much. And I know there's a lot of people out there that care more about what their targeted goal is. I don't want to say more about trees and animals than people, but that's their targeted goal. But at the same time, I want to ask you, there's some really cool things that happen. I know on this side, the more I've gotten involved with care, the more I've gotten involved with other topics. I find myself drawn in sometimes to even feeling like I'm like a magnet to other other people that are out there. I told you the story about care and before we got on the air, but to me it's relevant because just because you care about trees and animals doesn't mean you can't volunteer a little bit and maybe cross over. And there's some really genuine situations that happen, and even that makes a victim feel different, better even sometimes, because you're not talking about being a victim, you're actually talking about other things that are important to them too. Couldn't that
Right.
play out like that?
100%. Uh, and going back to the animals thing, I love that people have that intention that they want to be involved. They want to protect things that are vulnerable, like trees, like animals. But there was a study, these studies are released quite regularly, that there's a correlation between animals that are abused. Those people that abuse animals traditionally step into a domestic violence situation and abuse people. So I love that that people want to protect or rehabilitate animals that have been hurt, that have been traumatized. But you have to think, if that's the home they came from, what else is going on? I don't begrudge anyone that's what they choose. Like I said, a lot of times
Sure.
it is a trigger for people. But if you have that instinct, maybe take it a step further. I mean that as care, but honestly, we don't anticipate that you will work for us 7 days a week. If you give us an hour or 2 hours, if you can complement what you do for the trees and the animals with us. We have people that, in fact, we have people sometimes that bring in animals to help with therapy for the people that come into shelter, because that's huge. There's something medicinal or it beyond therapeutic. But animals, when you care for animals, we're involved now with a group that does equine therapy. And there's something about that's magical. So if we could actually partner up and have people do both, that would be great. I don't want to take away your whole life, but I just wish that maybe you could extend yourself. If you have that in you to help the environment, help other living things, that maybe you could just offer maybe 1 hour, like I said, 1 or 2 hours a week, just to kind of complement what you're doing. That would be great. Maybe we can actually, combine them. Maybe we could, while you're taking care of the animals, maybe we can bring shelter residents, or a lot of times people come into shelter with children. Maybe there could be something that we could do together. But you're right. If we could get them to see beyond, I don't want anyone to feel triggered. But I also think that there's nothing greater for a survivor to hear than other survivor's story of redemption, of coming out of that gloom and doom, coming out of the worst part of your life and getting to the other side and seeing that there is hope. We have people that come in here that absolutely volunteer because they've been so grateful for what they received at the time they needed it most. So that's their path to gratitude, is they're grateful, so they come in and they want to kind of give back, pay it back, or pay it forward, I should say. But that is huge. But honestly, if you've never had an experience, you have something to offer. We have people that come in and they say, I don't know, I cook, I'm a chef, I teach cooking lessons. We have a life coach that came in and she did like help the survivors with life boards, like those visualizations of what their life can be. We have people, maybe they teach self-defense, maybe they're artistic. ev- there is something for everyone to do, and every little bit that's contributed makes a difference. We're just trying to get people to see that there is a better life than the one they were living. Just a little bit of hope, just a little bit of passion, something other than the gloom and doom that they've gone through, to see the better on the other side.
So I actually wasn't going to tell the story, but I think I'm going to tell the story that I told you because
Mhm,
I think it's genuine. It's a real
mhm,
live true story. There was a victim who was looking to get a rental and had filled out the information through the Remax website to get some help. And so I actually, because I've done all this volunteering on this side, working with C.a.r.e. and having you guys on once a month for the last 2.5 years, I think we're at now, which is one amazing to me. But two,
awesome. Thank you.
yeah, it's been fantastic because I've learned so much because you guys do so much more than people know about. And I think having this outlet to at least share this information. And if you're listening right now on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, please share this information because there is no more vital information for someone to grab a hold of if they're in a situation or on the
Mhm,
edge of a situation. And just having somebody out here talking about this stuff in open dialogue has really, can break some doors down in the sense that you're going to get the right information in, instead of having to have them search for it. You know what I mean? But
absolutely.
the person who put the information in was quite unsettled because in this rental market, you kind of need help. On top of that, just layer on the fact that people go through, when they're abused, they go through certain things, and you also lose a little bit of confidence. You
Mhm,
also may not have ever in your lifetime had to go through a rental process. So there's a tremendous amount of fear, um, not just coming out of the abuse side of it, but there's a lot of fear that goes into being normal again.
mhm,
And especially if your normal is really abnormal, because
mhm,
your normal would be to sit back and let somebody else lead. And now you're in that lead position and you've got to learn and count on somebody. That's why volunteering, I volunteered to take that lead because I saw the word care and I knew what it was. I understood what the value was of just trying to help somebody. And I think that right there, that small little piece is exactly your message. Just come out and volunteer and just help somebody.
mhm,
Even for an hour. It's being human to human,
mhm.
and really just being a person who will listen. I just went through it. I legitimately have done the shows. I've done all these things. I've listened to everything, and then I did. And it's everything we've talked about for 2.5 years is spot on, spot on. And you said something that was of value to you when I told you the story. What did you say?
I said about, well, I mean, I just, to me, it's just about having them feel like they're in a place where they can come home to, where they're, is this the story you told me?
Yep,
Before the, okay.
yep.
So it's just getting them back to normalcy. We talked about the fact that a lot of times people coming out of crisis, coming out of situations like that, have no credit, don't know where to turn, don't know what their next step is. And you just mentioned it because you just said something. It's so true. You're coming out of what your vision of or your life has been normal, which really isn't. And then the question is, what next? What now? Where do I go? What do I do? How do I ever get to a place where I feel safe and independent and secure? So, having you step in and help somebody get to that, get them a place of a home, for then they can take the next step into life to independence, where then, well, I'm not gonna spoil it, but about what happened after they got into that home, after she got into that home. I, I don't know specifically, I apologize what you're referencing, but I just felt that is so huge, that step up and step out to getting them to a point. I mean, I can't tell you what that means. That's invaluable because a lot of times they've led a life where they don't know how to survive on their own, or they no, actually, I shouldn't say that. They do know how to survive on their own, but they've been taught they cannot do it. They cannot. This is all they'll ever know. This is all they'll ever have. And I actually have a support group that I teach in jail, and I say that so many times people think they're indoctrinated where you'll be nothing, you'll have nothing, you're worth nothing. And they'd rather hear that than nothing. If they actually get into a spot where they can be the voice for themselves and say, you know what, I am worthy. I do deserve respect. I do deserve autonomy over myself. And now I have a place that I can come home to where I'm not afraid to put the key in the door, where then from this place, I can then step on to getting a job, which brings me more autonomy, more security, more self-respect. And I shouldn't say self-respect in the way that I don't think they deserve it, but they've been conditioned to not have it. If they're now in a space that they feel it, that is the difference between night and day. That is literally the difference between night and day, where they actually start to feel that they can breathe without looking over their shoulder, without thinking that every little thing that they do is wrong. When they get to have that independence, there's no comparison for that in the entire world. So that I like I said, I don't want to jump or interrupt your story because of what you told me, but that to me, John, is huge. It's
Well,
huge.
truthfully, I'm being very cautious because the other thing that I've learned is that I can't like spew this whole thing out there because there's patient confidentiality, and not that it's mine. It's
Right,
not. It's my story to share with some kind of restraint
right.
to prove that it actually is real. This is not I will promise you, because one of the things that you did say, and this is on your side of things, was that you just appreciated hearing that it actually is working.
Yes.
And there's something to be said for some validation for care employees and volunteers. And I think if you volunteer at care, there's going to be validation. That pet may come over and wag his tail and come over, sit next to you the next time you see him. But I'm going to promise you something: if you go help somebody, they're going to come over, sit next to you. They're not going to want you to leave.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want you to stick around, because just like that abused pet, they haven't had that person to count on. They've ducked and covered and ran, and it's kind of funny. We're talking about animals being abused and people being abused, but there's a lot of similarities with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I think you're the first one that we've had this conversation about, if the animal is acting like that and is abused, what else is going on? There that and
Right.
that's just one more sign that is almost a given, that if somebody's out walking their dog and they're being abusive, what house are they going to?
Right.
And what's happening inside those walls? And I think this is the first time we've had that conversation on the show, but it's relevant. And
Right.
and the fact that we just told the story and really gave away no personal identification, but it's real, it's valid. And talk about self rewarding. It was not just rewarding for that person, it was rewarding for me, because it didn't have anything to do with patting yourself on the back. It had everything to do with going, holy cow, that just changed the whole dynamic of what they were doing in their life to try to move forward. And there's jobs, there's congratulations, there's a new place to live, there's congratulations, there's feedback, there's the still continued communications. It just doesn't go away because you help somebody. It kind of stays intact if you want to build that relationship. And there's so much to be said with spending time, whatever you have the heart to do, truthfully, the heart to do, spending time at doing that. If you care about somebody enough, and you've been through this yourself, why not give some time back? It's not a lot. But if everybody gave an hour, if 100 people gave an hour, I dare say that you would feel really good right now, right?
I would, oh boy, I would feel fantastic. But I want to piggyback off what you just said. So many times we go into it thinking, I want to help somebody else, which is great. But honestly, what you get back, what you feel in return is worth the price of admission, if you will. You just seeing a small difference in somebody's life and you were a part of that is, and that I know, I understand the people that come in, they're not motivated by, they don't want to be rewarded, they don't want to feel that, but it's inevitable because you will feel like I made a difference. We have a volunteer that comes week after week. She has been coming like every Wednesday at like clockwork, and she grocery shops and for shelter. And I honestly, she's lovely. And I told her last week, I said, I don't, this is, she says, oh, I don't do anything. I said, no, you get food for people, women and children. And it can be men. I don't mean it like that, but right
Yep.
now that's not what our shelter exists in. But I said, week in, week out, they rely on you for sustenance. You bring it. I said, that to me is so I cannot tell you what that means. She said, really? I said, I'm actually shocked that she didn't feel it herself, but I told her, I said, they are so grateful. And because of certain restrictions with terms of different volunteers get different access to survivors for different reasons. So she's not privy to that. And I told her, I said, they really are. I mean, she gets what they have. They create lists and she gets and that simple thing, maybe somebody got avocados this week, but that made they've lived in such restricted environments that they couldn't request anything. And now when they put it on the list, this volunteer goes out and gets it and C.a.r.e pays for it. But just the idea that she's here I mean, it's like, what is it? Neither rain nor sleet nor snow. Like she's like United States Postal Service, and she's here week in, week out, and that is huge. And I said to her, I said, I wish you could understand. And I have people in shelter that will say to me, listen, can we thank her? Can we write a thank you note? And I said, of course, absolutely, I'd give it to her. And I actually did. There was a woman with her children, and they kind of put together this little collage, and it was a thank you. And she was astounded. And I said, no, this is what you're doing. You going out there when they don't feel safe and you bringing back what they need is huge. I said, I know you think it's just grocery shopping. I'm just picking up what I have on the list. But that alone is enough to make someone's day. Where you have people that we have people that come into shelter that lived in a life where their refrigerator was padlocked. They didn't have money to buy groceries. They were restricted so that they have the freedom to put something. I can't tell you how many people put something on the list and said, is that okay? And we're like, yeah. But then we have to think, oh my gosh, they never had that right, that privilege, which isn't even a privilege when you think you write something on a list that you want from a store. But that to them is extraordinary. So when she comes back every week and she brings what they request and they actually get what they ask for, it seems so simple in the scheme of things, but for them in their world and what they lived, it's over the moon. I don't want to. I wish people could be part of that, and I understand they cannot be in terms of the restrictions. But the first time I ever saw it, when I thought, oh my gosh, this woman requested juice boxes. She gets juice boxes for her kids, and she tears up, and I think it's juice boxes. But then I'm thinking, no, I don't live her life. I don't know what she went through because I buy juice boxes for my kids and I'm thinking, what's the big deal? And for her, she said, I never was able to ask for anything that I got because I never asked for anything because I was afraid what would happen if I did. And the same went for her children. So that is so, like I said, for us, we might think it's negligible. For them, it's life changing. So if we can ever transition people where they can get their place, maybe a job, maybe they have to leave out of state, that's the best option. But whatever they need to do, or whatever they need to feel they're safest, they're most happy, they're most respected, that's what we aim to do. That's what we do. So like I said, any volunteer that does anything is, every moment given in service is valuable.
Absolutely. Well, you're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM and KDWRadio.com. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio. I'm on with Keara Abel from C.a.r.e. And we just finished up the first quarter of the show pretty much. And, you know, the volunteer side of things matters. Information going out matters. You've got some new things that you're working on. You're always working on the social media side
Right.
to get
Always.
information out. And you know, it's ironic how it works out because your social media side has gotten stronger. The feedback you're getting has gotten stronger, and the ideas are getting better. Um,
Yes.
and there's some beauty in that because social media, while I'm not a huge fan, I'm doing my show on social media. I do advertising on social media. I do my Buckeye group on social media. It is what I use as a form of information versus the updates of what I do daily. All right, I'm not into minutely updates on my day, but that's other people's kind of thing for social media. But you've got a lot going on with your social media now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a group now that works completely on our social media campaign. First thing they did, well, they're constantly updating our sites, but one thing I will say is that we have a billboard on I-75, and it's too many stories need to be told. It just went up on March 7th. It'll be up for 4 months, which is awesome. What they're focused on are it's TikTok, which I wouldn't even know how to access it. Ask my children. It's somewhere out there, but that's not my scene. But you have to meet people where they're at. So if that's what they use, whatever it may be, we're going to reach them. And it's kind of episodic, like the old serials where you have to tune in for the next one to see what goes on. It's been hugely popular. It deals with domestic violence. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we're going to have a different kind of serial, if you will, for that. But anything on Instagram, we're trying to post, like I said, meeting people where they're at. It is, we're dealing with, it's multi-generational. So for what might appeal or what might one person see and recognize a brochure, another person might access through Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever it may be. So this TikTok is, I couldn't understand the concept because I'm old, but apparently it's one person playing all the parts, and she's tremendous in it, because I thought, why would one person play all the parts? But that apparently is the TikTok thing to do. And it's, like I said, the following, the viewership, it has increased week after week. It was primarily started in February for Teenage Dating Violence Awareness Month. So it's kind of a teen theme, if you will. In April, that will change, but it's getting traction, and traction means getting information out there where maybe the person seeing it doesn't have that issue, hopefully, in their life, but somebody they know does. A lot of times our friends see things that we don't think they see, and a lot of times friends see things that they don't want to see. But if we can just get the conversation going, say, look, check this out, look what posted, maybe this is something you're interested in, whatever it is. Information is power, and all we're trying to do is get that word out there that there are resources, no matter the age, no matter the gender, no matter the status, economically, anything. All of our services, and I know John, I know you've probably mentioned this time and time again, but free and confidential. We have ways to reach out to us that are non-threatening, that are, in other words, it doesn't put you at risk. You can escape easily. We have the website. We have, you can reach out by texting. We have the hotline. It's available 24 hours a day. But that Instagram and that TikTok is huge for people to kind of have, it's another way to access people that maybe otherwise we wouldn't be able to access. Maybe they don't have that. They're not allowed for whatever reason. And we know the reason to use certain sites or certain conventional norms. Now we have other ways that, you scroll through TikTok, that seems kind of innocuous to the person maybe hovering over, but you can come across that. It just looks like another video, like I said, an episodic trend. Unbeknownst to the person that's hovering over your shoulder, it's not. It's actually informative and actually letting you know that we are out here to help you. And like I said, I mean, we've had people reach out in just from that. So our social media, anything with social media related to us is at C.a.r.e. Charlotte County. Sorry about that. But honestly, it has been, I can't tell you how many people have called in or call just to check up, texted in saying, oh, does this pertain to me? Are there resources for me? Just from the simple kind of little, and I don't mean to demean it, but it's like a 2 or 3 minute skit, and they post them regularly, and people are tuning in, and that's, like I said, gaining the traction that needs to happen. Maybe not for the person themselves, but maybe they know somebody that it can be impacted, but by what we share. So it's huge. Social media is the way to go. I know you and I are probably, that's not our domain, but honestly, that's king right now. And we have to go with the flow. And
Well,
much as
listen,
I try to resist.
in our lifetime, we didn't think we'd be doing this.
That's exactly, you're
So,
100% right.
it's amazing where a computer, when I remember my mom getting the first computer in our house and no, you can't use it, to my granddaughter right now has Facebook module that she calls us all the time on. And she does all kinds of things with it right now. She's 3, and she's got her 1-year-old sister right behind her, watching every move she makes. And
Yes.
the funny thing is we both know that Ellie's going to be behind her at some point. Because
absolutely.
she's learning way too quickly exactly what to do. Where Ellie had to figure it out, well, her sister is on board 110%. So if you're not adapting, and you guys are doing a really good job getting different sources out there, getting the information out, and an organization like yours that doesn't do that, it is kept really quiet, and you can't be kept quiet. That it's one of those situations where you guys have to take the lead and not blast it. There's certain ways you have to come about it, because there's I guess there's graciousness of information, and that's how I look at you guys. Because yes, while you want to blast it, if you blast it too hard, everybody goes into a shell. And I have this conversation once a month with you guys and different people in the organization, and it's refreshing because I get to talk to so many different personalities, and every one of you have different insight to what goes on, but you have one common focus. And it's really cool when, even how we started out this show, we didn't start out by talking about social media. We didn't have a target conversation. We just started a conversation. And the value of that is somebody out there is listening, and hopefully sharing. The more that people share this information, I think it gets more traction. Just the same as TikTok or any of the other social media venues. The more it gets shared, the more people that kind of attach themselves to the topic. That's the value. That's where people come into play. So let's just put it real for a second. Let's go back and talk about what we did in the first quarter, which is the volunteer. Why don't you volunteer to share the videos? Why don't you volunteer just to be an advocate at home for this
Right.
information? Because if everyone at home just took a few minutes to share this information out, to maybe get some more friends involved, if that's the worst thing you do, that might be the best
Right.
thing you ever did for the organization, because there could be more volunteers out there that don't know that you're asking for help. So share the video, share this content, maybe send it to some friends. Maybe there's a women's group out there that wants to get involved. You know, they need leggings, they need socks, they need underwear. There's a lot of needs. There's a lot of different areas, and you don't have to necessarily go to C.a.r.e to volunteer. There's so many things you could do out in the public arena that is very valuable for the organization. Can you talk about the legging kits and things like that, and why that's a value if somebody were to take that on and start volunteering to gather that those items for the kits?
Sure, absolutely. But I want to go back. John, that's genius because I never even thought of it that way. But I can actually get volunteers to primarily focus on that. We spend a lot of our money that is called it's unrestricted funds, which can go to anything that we need. And people in shelter sometimes they need to get a driver's license or copies of birth certificates, which also costs money. So we have that access, but we turn a lot of it into boosting our our social media, turning my volunteers and having them do that and having, and I know you're reaching out to people, outside, but honestly, that's great. I love that. I'm going to use that. So
Awesome.
the legging campaign, we're trying to promote. We do it mostly in April because it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. What we do, and we try to get people going into a store like Walmart or Bell's, and maybe they say, listen, we go in, you buy a pair of leggings, can you donate them? People are always like, well, why do you need that? Well, one of the things we do is we have a bunch of bags that we actually fill for hospital response. And hospital response is when somebody responds, and we respond 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, in the event that somebody's assaulted, whether that's domestic violence or sexual assault. We bring with us a bag that has toiletries and change of clothing and a quilt for comfort. And because a lot of times, especially with SV, which is sexual violence, they have to turn in their clothing for evidentiary reasons. So we tried to give them something. They don't have to walk out in scrubs or that god awful gown that never really closes on some people. But anyway, but we try to give them something, and the quilt is just a little bit of comfort to give them something that's personable that they can hold on to. I've seen it time and time again. They cling to it. It becomes a source of strength, a source of normalcy, if you will. What we try to do is get people to donate those leggings because primarily that is what our hospital response bags are filled with. T-shirts, leggings, flip-flops. We do have bags that we offer for men. I've been on hospital responses for men. We give sweatpants. But that is when we can get people to donate and put them into the bag, then we can use the funds that we have for other means. And when I say other means, I don't mean for folders and staplers. It all goes to our clients. So if somebody needs to build a resume, we can pay for that. When I speak about uh, birth certificates or paperwork, sometimes and most times people leave in the dark of night. So they don't have anything with them. So especially if they come with children and they need to establish that,
Yep.
what, right. So those cost money. All those copies cost money. We have what we said is unrestricted funds that can go towards that. If we have to use them for that, which I would rather we do, and we can get people to donate for leggings or t-shirts or flip-flops, and we fill those bags and we have them in different sizes so that when we go out to a hospital response in the God forbid event, which happens day in, day out, that somebody's been assaulted, that we can walk in and we can give them, like I said, a little bag of toiletries, toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, simple pair of leggings, simple t-shirt, flip-flops, and the quilt. That can make all the difference. I had somebody in a hospital response once, and she saw that quilt, and that's all she was concerned about, and she held on to it. And as we walked out after she had her forensic exam, after being assaulted, that's what she clung to. It may seem simple, it may seem what, but honestly, that simple things like that make the biggest difference in people's lives. So if anyone, I mean, we're trying, like I said, we haven't been able, unfortunately, to find a storefront that will let us set up, but we have an outreach coordinator, Laura Keim, who is diligently working to find somewhere. We used to be able to have Kohl's, not Kohl's, but Beal's, well, Kohl's maybe, but Walmart. Unfortunately, they've been a little bit, I don't want to say difficult, but there's more steps to kind of overcome in order to allow that to happen, because they've been very kind and generous to us in the past. I'm not going to disparage them, but honestly, if somebody, you can drop them off at either Reuse Store or our facility. We keep our facility confidential because people come to appointments and they've been followed. But if you call up and speak with one of our advocates, they can disclose that information. So I'm not going to present it right now. But honestly, that just one pair of leggings, which at Walmart is like, I think $3.88. And somebody that can walk out of the hospital without having to wear the hospital gown and the socks. That's the difference between night and day, because they don't feel victimized again. They don't feel like they are, people wonder why they're walking out like that. I've had victims, or I shouldn't say that, survivors say to me, being able to walk out with clothes on didn't make me feel as abnormal or unusual or victimized as I felt. It's simple. T-shirts, the price is negligible. And I don't diminish everything that you guys contribute. If you put out money, if people send in $5, less than that, $1, all of that is valuable, because it all goes to a greater good that we're trying to help people establish some sense of self-respect and decency. When you mentioned we're at events and we're outreaching, and people, my husband even said to me, why do you go to the boat show? Like, why is C.a.r.e. at the boat show? And I thought to myself, why are we? And then I realized, no, because one person walking through might need us down the road. It's also to establish the fact that we are here, that we are able to help anyone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. A lot of it is unknown. People don't even realize we exist. So it's getting the word out there. But also, I had someone come up to me at the Wing Fest and say, yeah, why are you here? And she said, then I realized there's a lot of people drinking. And maybe somebody realizes at the end of the night, they're going to pay the price because their partner was drinking. And now they have a phone number that they can reach out to in the event something goes horribly wrong.
Yep.
And I thought, that's why we're here.
And here's the funny thing. Most abusers, they schedule their time to abuse, right?
100%. Absolutely.
They schedule it. Yep. Everybody knows when they're going to do it. So it's not a random thing. No abuser is ever random, right? I'm joking here.
Never.
I'm being really sarcastic because I love the fact that you're out there. I do. I love the fact that you're out there, and that I think taking the approach that everyone needs to know you're there. It's really hard to advertise when you think about it. It's not a friendly product in the regard that it's not McDonald's. It's not a hamburger. Right. It's just not that. It's not one thing that everyone thinks of every day. Right. But they do think about it when they're in need. Mm-hmm. And they do think about it if someone around them is in need. So it's not necessarily, and I love the approach because it's the challenge of awareness. You're not saying, hey, you need this. You're challenging them to be aware in case they do. Right. And there is something to be said for that. And I put some volunteers up there, and it goes from 6 years to 1 year, and we're talking about hours. But I do have a question for you, because I don't know that another thought popped into my head, so maybe something you can run with. But
sure,
there's something to be said for a sponsorship packet. And we do this a lot for volunteers. I do this, for my Buckeye stuff. We'll sell raffle tickets. We'll have a prize at the end, whatever. But I'm wondering what you just rattled off how much it would cost to put leggings on a victim. So if you had leggings, socks, underwear, and a T-shirt from Walmart, how much would that be?
Max $10.
Okay.
$10.
So here's the beauty is that and this is just a thought. So, we nothing like open dialogue on
Absolutely.
but I'd call it a sponsorship packet. And
I love that.
And truthfully, I would probably hit some churches up and say, listen, we've got sponsorship packets. Could you sponsor 5 of these a year for $50? Well, how many churches are there? I mean,
tons.
You just handled it, and you didn't ask them for a whole lot, but you gave them a reason to give $10 per packet, and you're asking for $50. And it's not for CARE. It's for victims.
Right.
And it could be one of their members. It could be 3 of their members, and they don't know. So it's just a thought that came into my head because I watched you spew out information. I watched you come up with numbers. And to me, it's pretty simple to ask an organization for a $50 contribution for victims once a year. Well, if you could tally those up, how many sponsorships would you need to cover your victims each year?
That number, I'm not sure offhand. We don't have it. Ironically, we don't have as many as probably should because a lot of people don't report. But honestly, the idea of the sponsorship packet is genius. I love that because you're right. It kind of says, listen, instead of us trying to find, I don't mean nickel and dime in a pejorative sense, but honestly, if we have a church that says, listen, if you give us like $50, that's 5 hospital response bags that we can fill.
Yeah.
Just those words alone that's huge because they're thinking, oh my gosh, hospital response, somebody in need, we can clothe them, give them comfort. I love that. I'm actually using it.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
I'm not trying to give you marketing thought. I'm just listening to you. My mind can't stop thinking anyway. But it's one of those things where, I mean, you could go into any type of business. You could even talk to the Realtors Association and get the Realtors Association. I mean, there's 3,000 of us out here. And let's say that 1,000 gave $50 a piece. Okay.
Oh my gosh, we'd be able to, our closet would be stacked and packed for years. And the reality is we are having the hard time getting a storefront. So that is ingenious. It is a way to reach out to people. It lets them know this is going on. It gives them a way, in the scheme of things, it's not that much money for businesses to, be part of us and to help foster and sponsor that. I love that. I cannot wait till Wendy's back.
You could actually kind of push that out a little bit too and talk about the care packet too of being at home, the soaps, the shampoos, the things like that you were talking about before. We did this with my Buckeye group, and I talk about my Buckeye group because we're an organization that I started 16 years ago, and it's just a bunch of people that get together and watch Ohio State football games. And I say that in jest because we do so much more than that. We donated $1,850 last year to Kiwanis and provided Christmas presents to kids based on what the need of the Kiwanis was. And they did that. And then we give food to the food pantry each football game. So we're giving back there. So we're always trying to find a way. And I heard you say this earlier, you kind of pay it forward. and we're I would like to think we'll get some more wins out of it, but that doesn't necessarily happen that way. But the victories and the wins are
Right.
kind of funny when you sit back and you actually look at it, because our group is a lot of volunteer. It's a lot of people bringing stuff in. It's just driving that effort forward. You know, it's a football thing, but when we lose games, we're upset. But then we tally up the year and look what we did for others. And
Huge.
there's something to be said about being able to watch a football game and realize you're making a bigger impact somewhere else.
It's
And
huge.
now we're talking about volunteering. Maybe you're inspired now, if you're listening out there, to come on board. And maybe, hey, let me just go out and get 5 sponsors.
Right.
And now you're talking about 5 sponsors that you're not paying for them. Maybe you're going to dinner and eating there and saying, hey, why don't you sponsor 5 victims? You can get these from anywhere. I mean, to me, I think it would, I, on a volunteer side of things, I think it would really fire people up, because you're taking nibbles, you're not taking chunks, you know, that reward is so much more valuable when you can get some victories along the way. So I hope you'll run with that, because I'm kind of
I'm
excited.
running with it.
My mind is, I can't shut my mind off. Sorry, but
I'm glad. I love that because you're right. It's nibbles, but it's like you think about it. You put $10 in, and it can be more, and you're thinking to yourself, "I'm clothing somebody that's been assaulted.
right.
I'm giving them back some normalcy." That is invaluable. I love that. It's approachable. It's doable. It's realistic. I love it. I
Yeah,
wrote it down on my notepad.
you've got real numbers there. And the funny thing is, we're having an open dialogue. You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM, and I'm chuckling because I just realized we've got about 3 minutes left, and I didn't realize we queued up 55 minutes this quick. But it seems to always
Oh,
happen on this show. But I really hope you've uh, gotten in the information that you wanted, and maybe got some information back. Um,
absolutely. We're so grateful. I'm so grateful. I did not think I would be doing this today. I apologize that I'm the last minute fill in, but thank you so much for this opportunity. I just want to say, if that's okay, that anybody can follow us on social media. It's at C.a.r.e. Charlotte County. Like and share our posts. I have my whole little notes down here. I just want to also say that on April 23rd, we are having a walkathon at the Larry Taylor Kiwanis Park in Port Charlotte. It's Walk for Awareness. First 50 people sponsor that enroll get their free T-shirt. It's not to raise money. You don't have to get sponsors, but it's just kind of saying, listen, we're out, we're about, we're trying to get people to know what we do. Let me see. We also, can I promote something else if that's okay?
Absolutely, do it.
Okay, so we always partner with Today Matters Mental Health Ministries. That's from the First United Methodist Church on Marion Avenue. It's the third Saturday of every month. It's usually at 4 o'clock. They have a speaker. Doors open at 3:15. This month they're having a general from the Army who has seen a lot of combat. He has been rewarded for his his valor, I should say, and he has suffered from bipolar. They always try to encourage people about their mental health, and C.a.r.e. has a table there. I just want to kind of promote them. It's free. There's parking, and there's always seats. And I just wish that more people would come out. They had C.a.r.e. there 1 month, and I just wish that they just do great work. So, just if you want to come out, you're not busy on a Saturday, you want to come see what we have to do, have to talk about, please come out. I have the TikTok at Peace River. I think I'm good. We have a support group every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Anybody's invited. If you have any trauma whatsoever, please contact us at 941-639-5499. It's free. Any trauma, come have recovery, camaraderie. Please, we invite you. And the only reason I give the number and not the address is because of confidentiality, because of the address, because people unfortunately do try to find out where we're at. So, I just hope that they reach out. I love the idea, John. I'm running with it. I will not steal it as my own. I promise to give you
No,
credit,
take
but
it,
thank
take
you.
it and run with it. I think that
I love it.
there's something to be said about this conversation and the open dialogue, and really it's the reason that we went there is that the information you were given was sincere and really heartfelt, and you allowed me to think about what you were saying, and I always try to think about it as what do people are hearing on the other side of our conversation, because we are live on the radio too, and there's something to be said for exactly how you explained everything. I thought it was fantastic, and I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate your time, John. Thank you so very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, this is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio saying thanks and have a great day. We will talk to you soon. Bye bye now.